Warm welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here today and spending some hours on the super important matter, energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness. We have had a lot of good discussions through this conference, and I think we can leverage even more when we have all these knowledgeable people. Here in the room, you are representing the private sector as well as the public sector, and there are also a number of NGOs in the room. So warm welcome. I'm Anna Hall, and I'm representing the energy efficiency movement. And on the behalf of energy efficiency movement, I'm so proud to welcome you to this session. We're going to divide the session into 2 sessions with a coffee break in between so you can get refreshed and especially do the super important networking, right? That's why we're here, to network public and private sector together. How can we drive the energy efficiency agenda forward together? The first session, we will discuss the Brussels Global CO 4-point action plan. Actually, we had 72 CEOs in a room, blended with some policy officials and governmental officials, discussing what output we would like to have from the IEA conference. And we agreed upon the Brussels Global CO 4-point action plan. And this is what we're going to discuss today and also see how we can accelerate implementation together. After you have had some coffee, well-deserved coffee, you will come back here again, and then we will discuss the very important part, that the message that we're going to go out from here and really leverage when we come home in our various ecosystem. And that is how private and public sector, how we can accelerate energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness. So we have the afternoon here, and it's going to be a very interesting afternoon. Before we start, let me first briefly introduce you to the energy efficiency movement. The movement is empowering the adaptation at scale of energy efficiency within industry. The movement accelerates energy efficiency in the industry by sharing knowledge, enabling training, and foster collaboration. We unite industry leaders and leverage their collective expertise and resources to drive the world towards net zero. And it was launched in 2021, and now we're almost 600 movers around the globe, 1/3 in Asia, 1/3 in Europe, and 1/3 in the US. And we are very proud to be the official partner organizing this conference together with the European Commission and IEA. And if you haven't heard about us, feel free to grab me in the fika pause in the networking session, and also go into our website and read more. So we're the collective voice of the industry, and we cannot emphasize enough how important it is for industry to collaborate with the public sector. And I would like to set the scene a little bit. We have been going through what we then call the Brussels Global CO 4-point action plan. I will have help from one of my colleagues that was heading one of the tables in the very important discussion. And Jo van Horen, you are a representative of the energy efficiency movement, and you're also the vice president of Alfa Laval Energy Division.
Yeah, thank you, Anna, and thanks for being here. And this morning we started really very well, very good. We had very interesting discussions during our roundtable discussions, and I hope some of you have been there. And also then afterwards, there was a very good interaction of the outcome of it, and a good exchange between the ministerial CEO exchange on the podium. Basically, what it all boils down, it's all a matter of really strong leadership, attention, and commitment to drive the energy efficiency forward. And the commitment is never more important as now in these shaky times, basically, where we have to push it through. Actually, ahead of the conference already it started, and 18 CEOs have been signing basically their commitment to the 4-point action plan, and also in a certain way already representing the commitment of the industry which they represent. And that got prolonged during the CEO discussion this morning, where actually the 72 CEOs had been discussing, going through it, and reconfirming their commitment to the 4-point action plan. And the action plan really boils down on what the industry can do to make it happen and will make it happen, but also the commitment to engage with the public sector in order to drive certain necessities together to ensure and debottleneck certain areas and facilitate. So the 4-point action plan, when it comes to the commitment of the industry, is the following. Basically, it is about promoting the role of the business as a key vehicle for implementing industrial energy efficiency technologies. But it is also about advancing energy efficiency as an enabler for productivity, decarbonization and competitiveness. Basically, energy efficiency is a no-brainer. It is contributing to the bottom line and the industrial competitiveness. Then also at the same time recognizing the energy efficiency first principle. Energy efficiency is the first fuel. It's the first thing what we have to think about before even thinking about our other toolboxes. It is also the cheapest fuel. It's basically the fuel you're not going to pay for. And then last but not least, it's also encouraging the long-term collaboration across the value chain and definitely and important with the public sector in order to unlock funding. And then the industry wants to really collaborate with the policymakers and work hand in hand and see how together with policymakers we can ensure that also on the policymaker side the energy efficiency first principle is at the top of the policymakers' agenda. Secure, stable, and long-term policies, and I cannot stress more how important it also was underlined this morning. The stability of the policy is the most important one, because business cases on energy efficiency often fly, but if there is uncertainty on the business case, that of course makes suddenly the business case at risk. And then foster cross-sector collaboration. There is so many opportunities across sector where energy efficiency can be connected from one industry to another and where efficiency can be generated. And of course knowledge exchange in that area is very important. And last but not least, of course, also unlock investments through public and private collaboration and recognizing the public sector's role into that. The public sector has a very important role in driving also energy efficiency in all their CAPEX investments. And also there, of course, energy efficiency first needs to be the name of the game. Yep.
Thank you so much, Joe. Super nice. And this morning we also had a big debate on the public procurement, right? How we really can unlock money through public procurement, and that's a tremendous amount of money going around in the world in that field. So now we're going to do this nice. We're not going to do it in order because then you get all, you know, what's going to happen. So we are going to go through these points. We're going to blend public and private sector because we want to live as we learn. We really want to make this interaction as hands-on and as transparent and visible as possible. So I would like to start actually with the first point for the policymakers, and I would like to call upon Elena Traut. You're the chair of the board at EECA. And EECA stands for Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority, and you have a lot of insights, so we are very eager to hear. And it's going to be a 3-minute intervention from a lot of people, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. As mentioned, I'm the chair of the lead agency which promotes energy efficiency in New Zealand. And we have been in existence for 25 years, and it was set up originally to tackle climate change and introduce renewable energy into the New Zealand system. We have 3 strategic priorities. It's empowering energy users to manage their own energy utilisation in the most economic and environmentally sustainable way. Energy efficiency is first when we look at this and accelerate the uptake of renewables across the energy system in New Zealand. So our approach, it's a threefold approach. It's targeted investments to overcome market barriers, to adopt clean energy solutions, to provide information so that we are actually the trusted advisor on any efficiency and systems that actually create the opportunity to provide renewables into the system, and the regulation of products and systems within the system. But before I start on a use case that I'd like to share with you, I'd like to talk to you about the New Zealand context. We're a long, stringy country. It's about 1,600 kilometres long. It's not so wide. In fact, our economic, exclusive economic zone, EEZ, it's got more water, more land underwater than we have as New Zealand. So we have a long, stringy type of transmission system. We are 86% renewables, and it's dominated by hydro schemes in the South Island. We also have geothermal, which is actually very significant in our electrical system, and which is very unusual, and we are a world player in that space. And the third merit in order of renewables is wind. We do not have very much solar at a grid scale, and we certainly don't have the penetration of solar on houses like that's happened in some countries in Europe and in Australia. So in terms of the energy mix, the whole energy mix for the country, 26% is for electricity, 40% is oil, and that is predominantly driven by our transport fuels requirements. We do not have a refinery, and we have been challenged not by the weaponisation of the oil supply and gas supplies into Europe, but by the fact that one of the largest resources of gas is dwindling. There is a large resource that was found in the 1960s. It was actually one of the world's largest gas reserves, and it's dwindling very fast. So the government is actually very keen for us to remove gas from the system. And that's really a challenge for some of the industrials. What I'm going to talk to you about is a use case that ECA was involved in 2 years ago when the New Zealand government was addressed with a problem of its one and only steelworks. There is a large steel mill just south of Auckland, which is the largest city in New Zealand, which has something in the order of 1,500 staff members and 3,000 contractors to service it. It was challenged by the economic conditions of its energy supply, as well as the fact that it couldn't compete. And New Zealand was actually faced with the issues that they had very, very high ambitions on removing carbon from the system. So ECA developed a targeted investment with New Zealand Steel, where we assisted them in advancing their requirement of moving their coal-fired boilers out and introducing an electric furnace. So as a result of that, New Zealand got the economic value of having the New Zealand Steel organisation staying in the system and retaining those jobs. We removed 1 million tonnes of carbon out of the system, and also the New Zealand Steel was able to negotiate a electricity contract which allowed them to export electricity at times when there was a need to substitute the system and support the resilience of the energy system in New Zealand. So it was a really win-win for all, both the community of retaining New Zealand Steel in the system, from the government in terms of its very, very ambitious targets of removing coal, and also for New Zealand Steel to be a viable operating company. We have a very similar arrangement with Fonterra. Fonterra is the largest dairy producer in New Zealand, and I think it ranks the third largest exporter of dairy products in the world. And again, we have introduced a targeted investment where we have provided them with funding for one of the largest heat pumps in the world to be included in a site that's got actually the largest milk producing plant. So that's a way that we have actually assisted industry to actually get value in a number of ways, but it's through energy efficiency first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and very interesting to hear. So I hear close collaboration between industry and government, and also hear targeted investment has been your recipe to put energy efficiency first. Thank you so much. So now we will walk from the public sector, the government, to the private sector, and the role of promoting for businesses to actually drive energy efficiency implementation. And to talk about that, I have Eva Riesenhofer, that is from Siemens. You're the global head of sustainability. And Siemens, it's a leading technology company focused on industry, infrastructure, mobility, and healthcare. And you help your customer to accelerate their digital and sustainable transformation. And you're also a leader in industrial AI. Welcome, Eva. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. So we heard earlier when the feedback from the roundtable about total cost of ownership. And this is very much at the heart of what business is doing. We look at energy efficiency as cost, and we look at total cost of ownership, which doesn't stop at when you buy an asset. It means the entire lifetime, the energy cost, and then the end of life, what happens with the product at the end of life. So we heard about the HVAC system, which is adding more energy usage than the data centers. So that is a very fundamental problem here, and we know why this is happening. Now, unfortunately, the heat is felt most in countries that can't afford high-quality HVAC systems. The problem with low-quality HVAC systems is they're using a lot of energy. It may not be felt because the energy is subsidized today by the end user, but they're using a lot of energy. They break down after a few years, and they're adding to municipal waste. I mean, just to put that in proportion, we have more than 2 billion tons of municipal waste every year. That's 5,500 times the weight of the Empire State Building. So we have to change that if we want to put 3 billion people more on this planet. And here is like when we look at products, production, processes, use cases in Siemens, because we're in societal infrastructure, we're working with and for buildings. In transportation, we're building trains, we're doing entire rail systems, and we also are decarbonizing industry with manufacturing factories. So we do know about societal infrastructure. We also know that more than 70% of the footprint of a product is determined in the design phase. So that means when we look at energy efficiency, we need to design for low carbon material to come in, which means using secondary material. Then when you look at the product itself, we need to look at the use phase and reducing the energy uses in the use phase. But of course, our customers, they want to get a higher performance for the same cost, and it needs to be sustainable. So it cannot charge extra to be sustainable, and the way to do that is actually to add more functionalities into the same products, design it smarter, so we design new products, but we redesign old ones as well. When we redesign, we dematerialize, so we're reducing the material, we're adding more functionalities, we're making sure that it's reducing the energy efficiency in the use phase, and then we're already designing it to be circular, which means it's reusable, it's updatable, upgradable. It doesn't have an end of life because we're thinking about the next life, refurbishing, retrofitting. And I believe that is really important for our customers because our products are out there for 20 to 40 years. So we're not optimizing the past. We're building products that need to last for the future. And we know that when the public sector is investing, it's very important to invest in the future in something that can be updatable, upgradable, that can grow as population grows, as demand changes. That's where software is coming in. If we make it digital and smart, we can also adjust that going forward. So I do believe there's a very clear business case for energy efficiency. I also believe very much it is worthwhile investing in a higher quality product that delivers a much reduced total cost of ownership in the long term. And when I look around at our customer base, the one customer base that can really think long term and look at population and mega trends and how this is changing, it is the public sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Super interesting. So what you say here is to really have energy efficiency at your eyes at the beginning. Think about it in the design phase. And it is over life investment. So energy efficiency should not be just when you buy something, but think about it. It's going to last for the future. And of course, it's a CapEx and OpEx that it is a business case. It is a clear business case. Thank you so much. Super interesting. Then we will hear another voice from the private sector. Kenneth Engblom, you are the Vice President of Europe and Africa of Wärtsilä Corporation, and you are a global leader in innovative technologies and life cycle solutions for the marine and energy market. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to be here. Just to say first, electricity or energy consumption as such is not harmful. It's only the emissions that come out of producing and distributing energy. So, and really electricity, of course, is the ideal source of energy as long as for transport and heating, as long as it is clean. And also then these new hydrogen-based fuels are also emission-free. So with that in mind, Wärtsilä have two targets. It's to be carbon-free in our own production by 2030, and it's also to produce a portfolio of technology engines then mainly that can run on carbon-free fuels by 2030. How we are then reaching carbon neutrality in our production is of course energy saving. That's the no-brainer. So the way how we manufacture engines and propulsion system, we do it in a more efficient way. We are running our factories, so we are buying and offices with renewable energy, so the scope 2 emissions. And then we utilize all the heat from the factories in order then to heat the factories when needed. So it's a closed circuit in the system. Then on the portfolio, so we are now then working on of course battery storage is one, but then the engines. So we are now having the engines ready to run on hydrogen, or we are working on that one, and hydrogen-based fuels like green ammonia and green methanol. So those two targets are KPIs, and it's actually part of our bonus program for the higher management in Wärtsilä. So that's how we drive this. But then besides that, we always been working on efficiency of the engines. So gas engines 10 years ago or 15 years ago had an electrical efficiency of 40%. Today, the latest gas engines now have an electrical efficiency of 50%. So there is a constant development on the production side. Then if you combine that with CHP, so you're utilizing the heat from the engines, then you talk about total efficiency of 90%. So I think that's where we maybe see the biggest possibility in what we do is to combine heat and power to utilize the waste heat in future power plants. And then maybe the most important is however, the total efficiency of the grid. And the technology then we use is very flexible. You can start and stop and follow the renewable energy. As you know, wind and solar is intermittent, and as soon as wind stops blowing or sun stops shining, you need something else to kick in quickly. And if you have, what we'd say then, inflexible coal power plants that you cannot ramp up and down quickly, you need to keep them running on half load at a very efficient operating parameters, but if you replace those by flexible gas today and hydrogen tomorrow, that can start and stop quickly. You don't need to have anything running there in the background in order to cover up the load. So that's, I think, the biggest gain is on the total system efficiency by designing a system for flexibility supporting renewables.
Thank you so much. Super interesting. So what I hear you say here now is, of course, you're staying firm to your own targets to be carbon-free yourself, invest in energy efficiency. You have hard KPIs. It sounds like this is brought up to the management, the board, that this is something you're really keeping track of. So energy efficiency, it is a business case for you. But then you also help your customers to be more energy efficient, and you have a standing of 90% efficiency of your engines, which is very, very impressive. So good job. Thank you so much. So that was how we can then promote implementation of energy efficiency in the private sector. But we also need investments, right? So let's move into the public sector, unlocking investment through public-private collaboration, and recognize the public sector's key role in doing so. And I'm very honored to have Gabriela Prata-Diaz here. You are the head of Copenhagen Center of Energy Efficiency in UNEP. And you are going to give us a little bit of your insights. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleased to be here. And so I'm from United Nations Environment Program. We host the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. And what we normally do on our daily basis is to support developing countries and emerging economies to advance energy efficiency, be it through policy, be it through identifying opportunities for implementation and developing business models. So on this side, we recognize the importance of the private sector, and we try to engage the private sector as much as we can and provide the conditions, working together with the governments to provide the conditions so that the private sector can operate in these markets. And one thing that we also do is we host the global ESCO network. So ESCO meaning energy service companies, and I would like to talk a little bit about that today. So in the framework of this platform, the Global ESCO Network, we develop every year the Global ESCO Market Report, and we just published the 2025 version of it 3 weeks ago. And it covers 25 countries, and both from mature markets and more emerging economies and developing countries. So we focus our analysis on the key trends, market developments, and policy landscapes, so in which ESCOs can operate in these countries of focus. So of course, recognizing that ESCOs play a key role in delivering energy efficiency, and that energy performance contracting can be a scalable approach for financing and implementing energy efficiency, both not only in industry, but also in buildings and the overall public infrastructure. So from our analysis, we saw that ESCO markets remain quite uneven in terms of development. We have quite some mature markets in developed countries, such as USA and some European countries, but also we saw some quite good development in China. And the reason why is because there is a coincidence with the well-established regulatory framework. So this is the component of the public sector that structures this market. However, developing markets report low ESCO. The tendency is low or small, modest ESCO activity because of, we recognize also the coincidence with a weak policy environment that allow for this type of companies to thrive. The main markets identified was, of course, the first one that always comes on top, access to finance. And a lack of standardized typologies of contracts and monitoring and verification protocols. Public buildings remain the main focus, and unfortunately, industry is still a bit underutilized in terms of ESCO business. And again, we identify the need for greater policy coherence. So as we've been saying here this afternoon, policy stability is good, but also coherence is important in our view. And then, of course, the development of enhanced financing tools that could be used. In that spirit, we are also developing projects on the ground, and I'll just provide a very quick example. We are working with Mauritius with the support from the Mitigation Action Facility. Mauritius has actually mandatory energy audits for large consumers and mandatory implementation of the recommended measures. However, there are still some unclear criteria regarding implementation of these measures. So therefore, a difficulty to enforce this regulation. So the main aim of this project that we are developing in Mauritius is to work with the national government on designing and developing the national framework for energy performance contracting to be operational, work with public procurement, also mentioned here, and also setting up a de-risking facility for ESCOs to be able to operate. So it's basically a fund with a first loss guarantee for ESCOs for local financial investment. So the project is starting now. It started like 6 months ago, so we don't have a huge amount of results yet, but we hope to see them pretty soon. And just a final closing remark, our sister organization, UNEP-FI, Finance Initiative, is also supporting the European Commission in the Secretariat for the Energy Efficiency Finance Coalition. And just to announce here that, not sure if you are aware, but there is an open call for membership, both for financial institutions, but also for the industry, be it utilities or consuming industry. So if you are in Europe and if you're interested, please feel free to have a look and join the coalition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So interesting. So you talk about financing and scaling, and you have done it through the important role of the ESCOs, where you actually can scale in a structured way. You talk a lot about how to discuss on the national level, so you can have programs actually, so you can implement at scale, of course, but also at speed, I hear you say. And you talk about the funding and how important it is to de-risk for these actors so they really can be out there and do the work and reach energy efficiency. You said that buildings were in the forefront, but we're still lacking the attention from the industry, and this is somewhere we could then, of course, improve. Thank you so much for a nice intervention, an important intervention. Thank you so much. So, but we will stay now in the very important investment, and we will go over to Japan. And I'm very honored here to welcome Naoko Doi. You are a Senior Research Director at IEEG in Japan. And you are active at the Climate and Change and Energy Efficiency Unit, and IEEG stands for Institute of Energy Economics in Japan. Warm welcome.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have a chance of making comment at this important occasion. IEEJ stands for Institute of Energy Economics Japan. We are the research think tank working on energy efficiency issues, climate change issues, and other energy analysis, and mainly doing research for ministry for their consideration of the policy-making purpose. So at this occasion, the question is the role of government and to unlock the potential of private sector investment in the energy efficiency. On this topic, yesterday and this morning, it has been pointed out that the government has an important role to play to provide the stability predictability and the transparency of the future direction of energy efficiency policy. I really wonder how the other governments are implementing and providing stability and predictability. So on this occasion, allow me to share the example of Japan. Perhaps you might have comments and welcome comments later after my intervention. But the key of Japan's providing stability, predictability, transparency on energy efficiency policy is coming out of this package of measures under the Green Transformation Roadmap. I mean, the key of the Green Transformation Roadmap is the Japanese government is in fact commit the investment of 20 trillion Japanese yen, which is equivalent to around 130 billion US dollar for the coming 10 years. I mean, this amount of money is in fact through the issuance of a public bond, but it has to be returned back with the mobilization of the earnings from the emissions trading system, as well as the carbon surcharge on top of the fossil fuel imports. So this way, the condition is set, and then this amount of money is in fact earmarked sort of to the 22 sectors, I mean, including iron and steel, cement, petrochemical, paper and pulp, buildings, automobile, batteries, I don't remember all, but it's 22 sectors. And so if you are in industry, you would see kind of what regulations would be in place, what the government target would be, and what the international collaboration opportunities. And then also industry provides kind of a market size investment requirements for these 22 sectors. So, I mean, this would send a very strong signals for each subsector of the industry and the future direction, what needs to be prepared for them to do the commitment of the carbon neutrality that Japan has made. So, in fact, this has been flourishing private sector engagement in making investment in large-scale factories, for instance, large-scale producers of the glass, I mean, the production of the double glaze and then the triple glaze, the glass factories. Already they made a billions of investment for the new factories, and then other, subsector, industry sector follow suit. So, I mean, similar to the other countries, it's very important to send the signals, not just the policy, but the money that they could have opportunity to earn. So industry policy is, in fact, combined with this energy efficiency policy. That's the important part of the moving things forward. And secondly, I mean, I have just discussed about policies towards promoting investment in large-scale companies, but of course, it's very important to facilitate investment by the small and medium-sized companies. For that, Japanese government provides various types of economic incentives, and one of them is quite successful, which is quite a standard kind of subsidy. I mean, if they achieve 10% of the energy efficiency, perhaps the investment cost of half or 1/3 is covered by the subsidy. The important point about this subsidy is that the government prepares a list of technology eligible for the obtaining this subsidy. So, I mean, for the small scale and medium-sized companies, I mean, they perhaps would efficiently choose the technologies eligible for them to expand their businesses based on these guidelines. So, I mean, it would make things easier, and then their engagement becomes stronger. And there are about 2,000 applications, and then half of them were, in fact, permitted to receive this funding from the government. So, I mean, both, making conditions available for the large-scale companies as well as SMEs quite important. And for that, Ministry is making a very much efforts, very much detailed preparations are being made. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that very important intervention. So I hear you that you say also it's super important to have a roadmap. You have the Green Transformation Roadmap where you have earmarked money when you work across the whole private sector in Japan. And you're also emphasizing the importance of the small and medium-sized companies, how they really need economic incentives and that you need to have a plan. And you're really working with incentives where you then can get subsidies after action when it comes to energy efficiency. Very nice. Thank you so much. So investment from government, let's move forward to the private sector again and how the private sector recognizes the energy efficiency first principle as the driver for secure and affordable energy. And who cannot be a better talker around that than someone working with an energy company? So we have E.ON here with us today. So we have Burkhard von Kindnitz, that is both working with E.ON. You're also the chair of regional initiatives for the World Energy Council, right? Welcome, and we are eager to hear your intervention.
Thank you very much, and thank you for mentioning also World Energy Council. On my name tag here is only E.ON mentioned, and the reason for being here is not being here for E.ON, but for the World Energy Council. I'm an officer there, and this is also not the private sector, but there's also a big network of energy stakeholders across and impartial. So, I heard a lot in the today and yesterday about all the, what is mentioned here, multiple benefits, and it's very flourish, not only the picture, but also for me, the paper of the action plan, to be honest, and I think something a bit critical is more helpful to take something with, is in some cases not tangible and crisp enough, especially on the private sector. I like the policymaker part more than the private sector. I think there is everything in, and we read that efficiency helps for geopolitics and helps to reduce doctor visits, and so, and if it's such a low or no-brainer, then you might lose attention and might also lose traction for your topic. And I'm convinced that energy efficiency will be successful. Every business case that is positive will happen, and in other cases it won't. Very simple. When we, for E.ON, in customer solution areas, speak to energy-intense industry, I think you don't need to nudge them. They need to survive to care for energy efficiency, and if we speak with them, and if we get a contract, we don't earn a lot. Very small margin, very high competition there. They are on the side, and a steel company without caring for cooling and heating and everything has no chance. So I think there we need to bring something to the table. They are on the side. Different is for SMEs. There definitely it could be helpful to bridge the silos, to bring awareness and to overcome OPEX, CAPEX differences also. I think there, as we also heard for Japan, I think there for the private sector needs to be done something, and the concentration on this is helpful. And further with the households, private and public sector should, we heard for the lunch break from Morten, from ABB also, to bridge who builds the house wants to have it cheap, and who lives in the house wants to have a cheap energy bill. This is a logical thing that should be tackled with energy efficiency. So just, and on the household side, I also have sometimes it's not so logical. We had in Malmö a smart quarter for houses, and when we showed the people living there that they can save a lot of money, they didn't change their behavior. As soon as we started to compare and to bring a ranking and tell you are on rank 7 in your neighborhood, and last week or last month you have been on rank 5. So your neighbors did more. This changed the thing. So just some aspects for concentration on private business, more maybe on the household and on the SME, and for the politician, secure, stable and long-term policies, as mentioned here as a second step, is absolutely crucial, and this is the ETS or general CO2 price. Reliable, long-lasting, increasing, this will bring for everything in the energy trilemma the things to a good end. Efficiency is for me not only less, it's not only less primary energy, it's also more, on the same side, more electricity. Just the sector coupling, bringing electricity to transport and heating saves, brings efficiency, saves in some projects a third of the necessary energy, and it is also bridging to the global south. Access to electricity is there, helping for clean cooking, helping for prosperity, and this is also on a complete different aspect, energy transition, also efficiency for them. So less primary energy, more electricity. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting. And super interesting with the numbers when you start to compare, when you can tell people what rank they are, the behavior that you lifted up here. Very interesting. Does not just go for households. I think that could go for industry as well. So thank you so much for lifting that. We are moving back to the private sector on how to then elevate energy efficiency to the top of the agenda, and we are going to continue on a big organization that is global, UNIDO. We have Christophe Yvetot here. Where are you, Christophe? There you are. Warm welcome. A short intervention on how to bring energy efficiency to the agenda.
It works now, yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you for IEA to invite us in this important meeting. Energy efficiency, it's a major objective of UNIDO, because UNIDO is the only multilateral organization which is totally focused on industry. And of course, we're convinced that energy efficiency is part of competitiveness, but also, as was said, is part of the resilience and now also of security. Energy security. And as responsible for industry globally, we see also, we had made some years ago a global report on energy efficiency, and what was a major finding was that in many cases investment in energy efficiency have a return on investment in 1.5 years, 2 years. So that's a low-hanging fruit. And also, it's measurable. In many countries where we operate, we've been operating for more than 20 years in more than 60 countries, but really on the ground. And we have also the fishes per company, and we can see really the progress made. And in many cases, you can have also decrease the cost for industries of 10 to 30%. So it has really, it's very good for competitiveness. And also, what a good news also is that in our we receive all the industrial statistics from the whole world. And what we could see in our latest industrial statistics report is that globally, there's a good news, there's a decoupling between industrial production and CO2 emissions, which is a very good news, but we need now to scale up and accelerate. And for this, we work, as my colleague also of UNEP indicated, in many different ways, also to work through those EPCs, you know, energy performance contracting, and trying to develop on the ground the ESCOs. But also we need to invest more, public and private funding. We need the public investments, because if we invest in the local capacities and in local industries, we can really start to build blending operations which have a bigger scale. Public money will not be enough. We need really to mobilize the private funding. So when we have some grants, we can support local industries and then build a bigger operation with loans from Development Bank and the private sector investment. I will give you 2 examples, and that will be the end of my intervention. With the European Union, we have worked in all the South Mediterranean countries at the level of industries, and with €1 of public investment, we leverage €4 of private investment. It means also a market for clean tech. Also, we've done that in Eastern Europe also with the European Union, and now we've launched a new program with Sweden for the whole of Africa. It's energy efficiency, livelihood, for sustainable livelihood. And in those countries, we work at the macro level, mezzo level, sharing knowledge and technology, and the micro level, working directly in companies to support their energy efficiency. Together, we can do a lot. I think it's a low-hanging fruit. We can measure, report, and verify the progress made. There's really a sector that if we invest, we'll have a quick return on investment. So let's work together, public sector and private sector, so many solutions. And we have included already in our operation the action plan of the CEOs, because this is what we do every day in our operations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting how we need to collaborate. I'm a Swede, so I'm happy that Sweden is behaving. And also, I mean, this is astonished that you say that every euro is from public money is then turning into €4 that we really can leverage, and that's only through collaboration. Thank you so much. And one of the discussion at the CEO roundtable is that how important it is to be global. So we have had European perspective, Africa and Japan. I would now like to turn into China. And I would like to turn to Niu Xiaotong. You're the Deputy Managing Director of China Quality Certification Center. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We're pleased to be here, and I'm from China Quality Certification Center, and which one is focusing on the energy efficiency, energy conservation, climate change, and also the carbon reductions by the method of technology exchange and the methodologies research, formulate the standards and the policies, and also by the way of assessment, evaluations, and the certifications. So let me briefly share our practices and experiences, especially in advancing energy efficiencies as enable for productivity, decarbonizations, and also the competitiveness. So firstly, we carry out energy efficiency assessment for the national wide levels. We have about 20,000 key energy consuming enterprises, accounting for approximately 70% of the national total energy consumptions and carbon emissions. Currently, an increasing number of industry enterprises are adopting energy efficiency assessment to achieve energy conservation, carbon reduction, and energy efficiency improvement with support from the government. For instance, Pilot Province has launched a 3-year energy efficiency assessment initiative touching at maybe 7 or more key energy, including such as the textiles, chemicals, and paper industries, with funding provided by the government. The energy efficiency assessment help to identify weak links and prominent obstacles in energy utilizations while uncovering significant energy-saving potential for retrofit projects. To support this retrofit, the government offers the financial assistance through multiple channels, including the fund allocated to the national initiative of promoting large-scale equipment renewal, and also the trade-in of consumer goods, the central budget investment, and also the ultra long-term specific government bonds. This funding enables enterprises to adopt green and low-carbon technologies along with high-efficient energy equipment, thereby improving the energy efficient and also having potential for green transitions. Secondly, I think one we were doing is actively promote the development of the zero carbon parks. That's especially focusing on industry. To building the zero carbon parks represents a crucial measures to accelerate the green energy transition, facilitate deep industrial decarbonizations, and enhance the green competitiveness of products. We have approximately 2,500 national and provincial level of industrial park, which host about 80% of the country's industrial enterprises, contribute over 50% of industrial output values, but also account for nearly 1/3 of national carbon dioxide emissions. Currently, the pilot initiative for zero carbon park development has been implementations reaching for different provisions, such as Inner Mongolia, Hainan, and Fujian, achieving remarkable results. Through these local practices, we think it's learn a lot. Strong support needs to be provided for the enterprises to conduct carbon emission accounting, obtain carbon footprint certifications, and also implement ESG disclosures and establish a green and low carbon supply chains. These measures will improve energy efficiency while strengthening the driver for green development of industrial enterprises and green competitiveness of these products. And also the multiple dimensions, including policy, technologies, and finance, for example, to facilitate the government sectors to formulate national zero carbon parks, including standards, encourage the ExCos and technology providers to deliver comprehensive technology solutions, and guide the social capacity capital participations towards the zero carbon parks development through establishing investment funds and co-investment mechanisms. And for the third one, I think is also important, because such as IEA is a very good platform for us to have cooperation and discuss. And we are actively participating in the intergovernment international cooperation. Under the framework of EHUB, we have leading the top 10 task group, and some of the participants has been here. The task group aims to identify and promote advanced energy efficiency technologies and practices globally, enhancing energy efficiency and carbon reduction management in industry and other key sectors. Today, we have already to release 2 benches of an international top 10 list, effectively facilitate the exchange and adoption of energy saving and carbon reduction technologies. So it's conducted by China National Development of Reform Commission, and now actively advancing the 3rd round of selection. We warmly welcome interested nations to participate in this cooperation. And furthermore, to advance carbon accounting and verification technologies and promote mutual recognition of the evaluation results. we CQC have established an International Carbon Accounting and Verification Council installed for ICAVC in collaboration with the government, the testing, inspection and the certification organizations, and also it covers including various industry sectors. The Council has set up a secretary in Europe, operated by CQC Europe subsidies. We look forward to cooperation with relevant institutions through standard development, technical exchange, project cooperation to gently improve carbon emission accounting and verification mechanisms and facilitate development of international carbon markets. So to summarize, including energy efficiency in the industrial sectors requires multiple dimensions support, including policy, technologies, and financings. It also demands deepened collaboration between the public and the private sectors. Such concentrated efforts will effectively enhance industry productivity, decarbonizations, and competitiveness. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, and thank you also for underscoring the collaboration between the public and private, also the energy efficiency assessment. We need numbers to do something, and also telling us a little bit how you have developed programs of both bonds and policy, and also the importance of carbon emission accountant and carbon accounting in general. Thank you so much for that remarks. So we're going to move from China to Europe again, and we're going to hear from DENEF. Tatanya Rule, you hear from DENEF, and can you make your intervention really short and crisp, just the most important part, no more than 2 minutes, please.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm from DENEF. DENEF is the German Business Association for Energy Efficiency, so we're made up of about 250 members of energy efficiency technology manufacturers and service providers. So in this room, we all know about what energy efficiency can do for industrial competitiveness. And I find it really incredible that in 2025 we have to stress that because it's a no-brainer. But obviously it is necessary, and things we've been working on for decades. Yeah, then maybe at this point of time we have to stress the competitiveness part of the energy policy triangle. But let's really keep in mind we are talking about competitiveness in times of climate change and in times of the necessity of decarbonization. And this is really, really interconnected. We have big economic potentials in energy efficiency, especially in Germany, but also around the world. And what we really have to accomplish is that we make implementation of these potentials default and not the other way around. Many companies have long lists of economic measures in their energy management systems, in their energy audits. And it is both the task of the business sector to make these potentials happen in reality with better follow-up on these energy management system and energy audits with the right business models. But on the other side, also, it is the task for policy to make it happen in a broad term, also for SMEs who don't have the capacity to do it on their own. And one more thing I want to stress is that there's not only the, I'd say, traditional kind of energy efficiency potentials we know, like all these motors and pumps and so on. But the very thing we have to think about, especially when reflecting that we are on the path to climate neutrality, is that industrial heat is the main thing we will be talking about in energy efficiency and industry in the next decades. Because there's the final energy efficiency question about that. In Germany, we can save 50% of our energy used for industrial heat. And this may be similar in other industrialized countries. On the other hand, there's the primary energy efficiency question about that. And this is very interconnected with the question of electrification and the avoidance of conversion losses. And we really have to get policymakers concentrate on this question, because there's so much CO2 to be saved and so much energy and so much money to be saved on this path. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for lifting the importance of industrial heat, and you can say 50%, it's impressive. Thank you so much for that. We're moving from Germany to Caribbean, and we have with us Melanie Shen. You're the chair of the Caribbean Energy Chamber.
Yes.
And there you are. Welcome.
Thank you. We're newer. We were set up about a year ago to ensure affordable net zero energy security for the region. And I'll explain just very briefly why that's important. We have a sort of a different paradigm. We have a paradox. The Northern Caribbean has some of the highest energy prices, electricity prices in the world. They are dependent on fossil fuels. The Southern Caribbean, which I mean Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname. Trinidad is the #1 methanol exporter to the European Union, and we're the #1 or 2, depending on the metric, ammonia exporter to the European Union, which goes into your fertilizers. Guyana and Suriname are what they call net zero, negative carbon oil producers, one of the few in the world. Despite the fact of that, the Northern Caribbean in the tourism sector and in Trinidad, where we have the engineering capacity, we have very little energy efficiency, and we have very low penetrations of renewable energy if we take out the incumbent hydroelectric. We're in the single digits. Some of the Caribbean leaders believe, and we've tried to dial this back, that the way forward for them to get energy security is to do green hydrogen and green ammonia. Now, that could work in the Middle East, North Africa, Australia, other parts of the world, Latin America. It is just not, at the moment, with where technology is, it is not feasible for the Caribbean. So green hydrogen works in niche markets using the waste heat in Trinidad, very small, not a huge amount, and in Barbados they've done it, but it is not, it's a blue sky thinking. So we've had to try and redirect the Caribbean heads of state to be a bit more practical, that energy efficiency has to come first, then short-term implementation of renewable energy, wind, solar. So what we did was do a general awareness, but that's not enough. So we moved then to professional awareness, and like some of the other panelists here, in order to scale and capture the impact of energy efficiency, we decided that we're going to push the ESCO model, and with credit guarantees from the multilateral banks, because that allows them to not use as much capital on their balance sheet, and they can marry that with regional financing. So that allows us to get much more financing into the ESCOs, into the region, because we're very far behind, and that will help us hopefully deliver the investment and the technical gap in the region. A lot of it will be focused on the buildings, and in Trinidad on the commercial, because we're very commercial. We have 11 ammonia plants and methanol and a lot of infrastructure. So what does that actually mean for the chamber? So we had to drill down again. So what we did was, in order to foster the collaboration, we approached all the legal associations in the region. And in Trinidad, for instance, last week, we briefed 150 lawyers, not just on what an ESCO is in energy efficiency, but we started to drill down into the types of contracts, what are the difficult clauses, how you can standardize the contracts, just to make the mechanism to be more implementable. In early July, we will convene all the commercial banks in the Caribbean, and we will, again, brief them on what is a bankable project, what have been the difficult terms in the term sheet. We have invited the multilaterals. They will help them understand how they can marry it with the credit guarantees. So what we're trying to do is do all the legwork for the region so that they have 70% of the tools, and then they just have to do the last step, which is their bilateral negotiations. So why, are we doing all of this? Not because I love the Caribbean, because I'm from there, but because the Caribbean, we punch above our weight like Trinidad. But more importantly, people don't recognize as a bloc, the Caribbean tends to vote, and we contribute 40% of the votes of the whole Western Hemisphere. for the UN. So we're the same as the whole of South America put together. So we're close to Venezuela, we have Cuba in the mix. So geopolitically, we are some of the longest standing democracies, so it's good just to keep us stable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and super interesting. We hear ESCOs coming up many times and how you then do these standardized projects, and I also like this you're bringing up how we can foster cross-sector collaboration by bringing the lawyers and the ESCOs together. Very nice example. Thank you so much. We are moving on from ESCOs and industrial heat into the private sector again, and I would like to hear a little bit how we can encourage long-term collaboration over value chains and with public sector to unlock funding. And I would like to call for Julian Janete. You are the Vice President of the Energy Division at Alfa Laval.
Yes, I'm here. This morning in the CEO roundtable, we talked about changing the narrative. Bertrand Piccard said, we're not good at making our voice heard. Someone else say, it's not sexy enough. And you talk about sector coupling. So I would like to draw on that parallel and continue and tell you a bit of a love story from Hamburg and about excess heat, which was a fantastic case story of one of our customers, Aurubis, which is a non-ferrous metal producer in the harbor of Hamburg, operating a copper smelter. All the excess heat from the smelter was going in the Elbe River until they found their love partner, which was the district heating network of the new part of Hamburg city. And connecting the two has made that now the excess heat from Aurubis is helping to heat 20,000 homes in Hamburg. So how do we scale that kind of love story when we make those love stories happen in many other cities of the world? Well, we believe there is an Aurubis in every city. And if there is not an Aurubis in every city, there might be a data center. I have Google sitting close to me. So there might be a source of excess heat. And finding that excess heat and connecting it to a heat user is one of the opportunities to create that couple and that new love story. Of course, district heating doesn't happen everywhere, so that's one challenge, but there's other ways to value heat, whether it is to produce electricity, produce cooling. So there's various use cases for heat reuse that can make a success. And I really like the statistic you gave from Germany with the amount of excess heat that is available. How government can support that? Well, it's obviously a private-to-private contracts that is binding those two companies, but possibly governments can help in de-risking a little bit this couple. Some of those couples might not be ready, or partners in the couple might not be ready to commit for 10 years, which is needed in PPA for district heating, for example. So there are some de-risking instruments that could be implemented to support. Similarly, in the EU Affordable Energy Action Plan, there is a tripartite contract proposal and support, and some of it could be flagged for sector coupling, in particular for excess heat recovery. So let's make a lot of love story and a lot of couples in all cities in the world.
Thank you so much. We're a lot for love. Thank you for that nice story. So we saved the best for the last, and we have now 2 interventions left, and they're going to be super short and swift, I hope, and I hope they stay. But now we're going to talk about how we can secure stable and long-term policy. It's not an easy one, but we will hear from India, and we will hear from Nisha Jayaram. There we are. You're the Principal Counselor of Indian Confederation of Industry, and I would like to hear your intervention. And
thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Long-term and stable policies is something that pretty much all the panels that have happened since yesterday touched upon, and naturally that is absolutely the most important thing if you look at energy efficiency investments from the private sector. India has been doing fairly well on energy efficiency, and the policy policies in India on energy efficiency have played a significant role in that. So if you look at stable and long-term policies, what is actually required? There are a few elements that sort of need to go into it. The first is embedding energy efficiency in national law. Rather than just leaving it as a policy, can it be made law? As an example from India, we have something called the Energy Conservation Act, which became law in the year 2001. It's regularly amended based on what's happening around the world and how the world is changing. We had the latest amendment in 2022 to include carbon in it as well, because that is something that the world is talking about. In addition to this, framework or act, we also have binding targets that were set for energy-intensive industry. So binding targets is another element of long-term and stable policies. We have a program called the Perform, Achieve, and Trade Scheme, which essentially sets targets for specific energy intensity for highly energy-intensive or carbon-intensive industries in India. It's been very successful in creating a significant reduction in energy used in these industries. I have some numbers, but I don't want to go into that. So beyond that, the next element is to establish an independent regulatory agency rather than the law being dependent on a particular ministry. This ensures that there is continuity in actions, and this ensures that irrespective of which political party is at the helm of the country, actions move on. There continue to be actions on energy efficiency in the country. The third very important thing is encouraging stakeholder participation. This could be through multiple means. This could be through maybe encouraging relevant stakeholders to provide significant inputs to any policy or program that the government wants to come up with. This could be through extensive awareness programs on specific policies or programs that the government has to ensure that the right people know about these policies and programs. And I'm sure this is a problem in many countries when it comes especially to MSMEs, because MSMEs are very distributed and they may not have the capacity to understand what the government is doing or what are the programs that the government has. One other way to engage would be through incentives. Again, in India, a couple of subnational examples of incentives. Some states in India provide incentives for energy audits for MSMEs. So essentially, an MSME can get an energy audit done, and a part of the cost or the entire cost would be reimbursed by the government. This encourages MSMEs to undertake some action on energy efficiency. Another action that we have seen on green buildings is that about 13 or 14 states in India offer an incentive that in India we called additional floor space ratio. So the floor space ratio is essentially the amount of building that can be constructed on a certain area of land. And for green buildings, many states offer an additional 10% of floor space ratio. And this is an extremely good incentive for builders and realty developers because they're able to sell that 10% extra for a lot more money. So all of these have significantly improved actions on energy efficiency in India. Of course, there are many other contributing factors like strong monitoring and verification policies, creation of standards, which are also, of course, regularly updated, creation of an ecosystem or, for example, skill sets. In India, just like in many other countries, the government has a scheme for certifying energy managers and auditors, which provides the manpower that's required to offer these services to industry and other participants, and also to sort of, engage further on these topics. I'll just stop here, but essentially, I think we all agree that without long-term and stable policies, there really is no action on energy efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I like your clarity. It's super nice. I think you gave us very good examples, and I like the one where you talked about establishing an independent regulatory entity, so you actually have long-term policies beyond elections. So thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Now we have the last interventor that also is going to talk about secure, stable, and long-term policies. And we are now going to the Middle East, and we are turning to the municipality of Ras Al Khaimah and the Director of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Office, and that is Andrea Di Gregorio. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, pleasure to be here. And as a bit of context, Ras Al Khaimah is the northernmost emirate of the United Arab Emirates. It is a growing economy, a fast-growing economy, operating also as an industrial hub for the UAE and for some adjacent territories in the Gulf region. It hosts some leading companies in the field of mining, construction materials, including also a large share of the cement manufacturing capacity of the UAE. I will share a little bit of our approaches for the industrial sector. We recognize, energy efficiency in the industrial sector is quite challenging. And, in a recent publication also of the EIA, this is quite clear. It is an industry, it is a sector that is characterized by underinvestment, underemployment, understaffing, and also difficulty of applying broad approaches across across multiple players. So in this context, we thought that establishing some stable long-term policy could help the industries take action and invest. Our 2050 strategy for sustainability of the Emirate includes a dedicated program for industrial efficiency. And the program is organized as a system of platforms for continuous improvement in a context where we know where we want to go, the direction is clear, but we do not have all the answers in terms of how to get there. The platforms are fundamentally three. One platform addresses the industries themselves. It's an audit and a reporting platform. I'm happy that I'm speaking after India because the Indian case has been quite of an inspiration for us. It's an audit and reporting platform where large industries are required to conduct an audit every 4 years and report annually to the government on implementation. The platform already in its voluntary phase, which lasted 2 years, received voluntary participation from industries representing over 50% of the industrial energy consumption of Ras Al Khaimah. So it was an industry that was very receptive to this system. Our office in the municipality offers incentivized audits from empaneled auditors at standard prices. And the savings that have been identified and are now under implementation with astonishingly good payback times are of about 10% of their consumption. So it's quite significant. A second platform addresses instead the suppliers of those industries. It's a knowledge-sharing platform. A committee was formed of leading industries, and the municipality offers thematic workshops, frequent thematic workshops on topics of interest like waste heat recovery, compressed air, electric motors, etc. A third platform is instead designed for the demand for those industries. There are different systems in place, and some are under development. A notable one that is instead well working and active is a green public procurement policy that stimulates demand for the products of those industries, especially when those products are associated with energy efficiency. As I said, we don't have all the answers, but we are confident that the platforms will be flexible enough to accommodate new programs, new suppliers, new solutions, new initiatives, new programs of the government itself, new incentives as they become mature. I conclude by saying that Ras Al Khaimah is a receptive business environment. It's a place where new ideas are welcome. And so we welcome collaborations with peer entities, suppliers, consultants, experts to bring new ideas to Ras Al Khaimah and through Ras Al Khaimah also to the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and super nice to hear also that you were inspired by India, and this is what we want to foster more, like not only cross-sector collaboration between public and private, but also take all these good examples. So thank you so much for that intervention. And we're now going to have coffee for a while, and I then urge you to come back here at 3:45, and I will count how many will come back, and I will put the ones that does not come back on a very bad list that you don't want to be on, because that is not good. And I will do a cliffhanger, because we will also hear about the IEA report on how to really put energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness gaining an edge. And we have very many good speakers, Google, SKA, and more after the break. So please meet here again, 15:45. Coffee is served here in the Grand Hall. Dear friends, we're soon at we are at 3:45, and I would like to start because many of you have flights back home. So please take your seats. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Some are listening, some aren't. Yeah, they're the good boys. The good boys are listening. That sounds good. I'm happy for the good boys and the good girls. Yes, please. Okay, we're moving into next session. Thank you so much for all the nice impulse speakers and interventions in last section, where we then discuss the Brussels CEO 4-point action plan, how industry and private sector can contribute, and the enablers that the public sector can provide. So now we're working into how private and public sector can accelerate energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness. Of course, very, very important. And we're going to do, like we're setting the scene, we're going to have some welcoming remarks, and we are going to have a discussion on 4 topics with very good speakers. So in setting the scene, I actually would like to turn to my colleague, Mike Umiker. If you can tell us a little about Energy Efficiency Movement that just released a report.
Yes, thanks as well for attending this conference, and we are very proud that we have been able to partner with the IEA and the European Commission for this conference. Just 3 insights from my side, as we have also released a report just before the IEA released this fantastic report, where then Emma will speak about it. And we looked into the barriers, and the report is called Efficiency Now, is also available on our website. But basically 3 things came out there, so that 68% of the companies have increased energy efficiency budgets, which is actually a very good sign. However, more than 80% still report insufficient funding, highlighting financial concerns as their key obstacle. The second point was that half of the business leaders confirmed that the lack of qualified personnel hinders their energy efficiency initiatives, while over a third struggle or to prioritize related measures, citing weak leadership as a significant barrier, especially when it goes then further down into the organizations. And the third bullet point is about that energy efficiency is key in addressing the rising energy demand and the industrial competitiveness and climate change, that the study provides at the end also a strategic roadmap to help industries to overcome the critical challenges. So I will not disclose the roadmap here. You can find it on our website. And with this, I would like then to hand over to you, and you introduce Emma properly.
Let's do it properly. I would like to introduce Emma Money, who's a lead industry energy efficiency analyst at IEA, and you're going to talk a little bit about your newly report on energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you, and thanks, Anna, and it's a delight to be here. And thanks to everyone for just because this is my only opportunity to say thanks to everyone for their contribution over the last 2 days and beforehand. It's been amazing, and hopefully we'll get a lot of moving from that. awareness to ambition to action coming from this. So the theme of this conference is moving from awareness to ambition to action, and everyone in this room knows about the energy efficiency and the multiple benefits that we get from energy efficiency, not just in cost saving, but all of the other benefits. But not everybody knows this, and not everybody recognizes this. Energy is often viewed as an operational decision and an operational cost, and for us to move to accelerate action, we need it to be a strategic decision. But as Fatih Berhol, our executive director, says, at the IEA we look for the data, and we make our decisions, and our advice is based on the data that's out there. When we were looking at our report on the role of energy efficiency in industrial competitiveness, and you have a quick summary of it here, but it's available online, we looked for data on how we could convince people, or what we needed to do. We all know this is anyway, that there is competitiveness and that energy efficiency helps with competitiveness. But when we look for proof of that, it can be quite hard to find. What we did find is we found that energy efficiency delivers more than just energy savings. And emissions reductions, it also does improve the competitiveness of countries and firms. We know that the world's industries today can produce more value, so about 20% more for a given amount of energy than they could 2 decades ago. So that's a positive thing. We know that there is significant untapped potential at the firm level, and not only in the heavy or the large industries, also in the lighter industries and in SMEs. And we know that there are opportunities for the technologies, that they represent a new opportunity for companies to develop these technologies. We know, and Mike talked about it, that there are barriers, and that we know that we can overcome these barriers, and we know that one part of this is a renewed policy approach. I'm going to concentrate on the policy approach a little bit, because I think, well, it's the part that I was involved in writing, first of all, thanks, Jerome. But secondly, it's a part that's reflected really well, I think, in the discussions that we've had of industry and of policymakers today. So we need an ecosystem for the accelerated action and implementation, and policymakers and the private sector can have an impact on this. In policy, we at the IEA say that we need an integrated policy package where we have regulation, information and incentive, and this is the best way in which we get policies implemented. But when we were looking at competitiveness, we looked at the countries that are performing, that are top performing, that have low levels of industrial energy intensity while they continue to grow. And we came across 5 shared policy instruments or mechanisms. But these are also reflected, it's interesting because they're reflected in what we've been talking about here today as well, and industry is also coming forward. These are the key things I think that is driving energy efficiency forward. We need comprehensive energy management policies. So we need that energy management, not just audits, but we need the support so that energy management can be put in place. And where we have that, we generally find that there is improved sustained energy efficiency regardless of the size of the industrial sector or the type of industrial sector. We need targeted fiscal supports and financing mechanisms, and these can be designed to match the types of industries that are in your countries, the sizes, and where you need to have action first. So if there's a particular sector that is of most competitive advantage to you as a country, you need to target that, and you need the fiscal mechanisms in place to do that, and the financial mechanisms. We need investment in research and innovation. And a lot of the work that we do, we say that we already have the tools and technologies that we need to move forward, and we do, but we can do more. So we need that continued investment in innovation and in research so that we can move forward and progress further. We had a report out recently on the potential of AI. And when we look in the industrial sector on energy management, there's about, in the light industries, it's about a 10% boost that you can get from AI on top of energy management systems with a payback time of 6 months. In heavy industry, it's about 4%. It's a really interesting report if anyone wants to read it. It's available online. We need very strong minimum energy performance standards for all technologies. We have it in place for motors, but we need those to be implemented more strongly. That's proven. It's a proven way in which we can increase energy efficiency across all sectors, but especially across the industrial sector. And the last thing, and this is what we're doing here now, and I think it's one of the key points that we need in between policymakers and the private sector, is we need support and interaction with and through industrial networks. This is the key way that we've seen that industry and that governments work together. It's through these industrial networks, like the energy efficiency movement, like the large industry energy network that they have in Ireland, like a number of examples that we have. These are essential to energy efficiency and delivering energy efficiency. What I want to say as well, though, and this is a point that has come through today, is a number of industries have been looking for, and we know how important long-term stable policies are. If we want long-term stable policies, which is hard to get, then we need to get information back to governments that will convince them that long-term energy policies are needed. We at the IEA need information and data. It needs to be shared. You talk about benchmarking. At the IEA, we want to do benchmarking. We cannot get the data to do it because companies want, or we find that industry wants benchmarking, but they don't want to share the information that leads us to actually generate the benchmarking that they need. So I'm appealing to you to share information with each other and with us. And I'll stop there, Anna. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, share example. We heard this very good here before for the coffee, India and the Middle East sharing examples. Thank you so much on this, Emma. I mean, all of us, we are a little bit frustrated maybe because we have the COP28 pledge, double the rate of energy efficiency implementation. We're going from 2 to 4%, but we're not doubling, we are halving. We're down on 1%, both 2023 and 2024. So Emma, you're telling us the policies are there, they need to be implemented. And I would like now to open the floor to the private sector and to big companies, ABB and Grundfos, who is very active in energy efficiency. Maybe you can reveal how we will do this doubling up. I mean, we don't want to half anymore. It's no fun to get half candy bags or half apples or so. We want to double up. So I would like to invite Erik Labuda, President on Motion Service Division at ABB. And you're a vice man, Erik. So let's solve this in 3 minutes.
Thank you. Nothing easier than that. No, actually, first of all, very happy to hear that energy efficiency is now really top of the agenda. I was 10 years ago in Paris, right? And there was the 1.5-degree target at the top. A lot of energy, right? But if we are really honest to ourselves, we haven't been moving fast enough. Can we still do it? Yes, we can, but we need to go faster. So energy efficiency is not an option anymore. It's an absolute must, right? And it's the fastest and cleanest tool that we have at hand to really accelerate basically the movement towards the 1.5 degrees target. Every single kilowatt hour of electricity that we save is actually an electricity kilowatt hour that doesn't have to be generated. There is less stress on the grid, and on top, it's good for the planet and for the pocket. So it's not a coincidence that we're calling, as well, it's lovely to read in the IEA report that energy efficiency is called the first fuel now. Energy efficiency will have to contribute more than 1/3 towards basically reaching the 1.5 degree target. It's an absolute essential tool that we all need together and embrace it. But energy efficiency still has a bit of a perception problem. It's usually considered as being complex, ROI is not so clear, and maybe as well the awareness of what's possible already today is not always yet reached out to everybody. So maybe we go for a tangible example as we need to solve within 3 minutes. If we just look at the biggest lever, electrical motors, 45%, 45%, remember that number, is converted of the world's electricity into some sort of electrical motion. So it's almost half of what we produce in some sort of motion, and this is done by electrical motors. Most of them are running at inefficient levels, and they are very old. And now to give you a magnitude, it's more than 300 million out there. They are everywhere, from moving elevators, trains, conveyor belts, but as well in complex processes around heat and the likes. So this is a unique opportunity where we need to drive faster. If we would just apply the technology that we have today, we can save 10% of world's electricity right now. However, look, no one can do it alone. I'm happy as well that we get joined by Grundfos. Well, let me give you an example. Look, we are doing a lot of energy efficiency appraisals going to our customers and working with them to understand what are the biggest levers in their operations. One example is CERN, the Swiss-based nuclear research institute, where we have looked around 800 motors. Every single motor we looked had an energy efficiency potential, the best 64% reduction potential. All in all, summing up to 31 gigawatt hours of energy savings potential, which corresponds to 20,000 European household annual consumption of electricity. And by the way, the CERN has several thousand motors, so we just looked at a small subset. So if we do it, the opportunity is vast. The opportunity is extremely real. The technology is available today. It's scalable. It's proven. We just need to do it. So that's why, from my perspective, let's drive together not only the European competitiveness, but really drive towards the right choice for our planet, for our society, by basically still doing even economically the right thing. That's what we have all together to embrace. And we can all do it if we join forces. No one can do it alone.
Thank you so much, Eric. So every city needs a Rubis and every city needs a CERN, I hear here. Perfect. So Ulrik, to your consideration here, did you think Eric solved it in 3 minutes?
Not exactly. But,
not exactly.
But
so
if you really want to solve it in 3 minutes, and just to what Eric talked about, go home now. When you arrive home, go into your basement. Look at the pump you have home in your basement. It is most likely running at full speed 360 days, 5 days a year. If you replace that pump, it has a payback. If you take the most energy efficient pump that's on the market today, and you will have the payback in 3-4 years, and sometimes even less than that. So if you want to take action, and if you want to be done in 3 minutes, just go home and do that over the weekend. There's over 200 million pumps in Europe that is sitting there running at full speed all the time, even though no one is using the water. But anyway, I want to start in a different place. So basically, our business is about making also other businesses run sustainably. So with the least water and with the least energy. And to our knowledge so far, there's only 2 types of energy that can move water. The one is gravity, and that's for free. And then there's pumps, and that's what we actually concentrate on. But I think I want to touch on one of the barriers that has been coming up. I feel we are talking too much about frame conditions and too little about what we as a community between businesses can do about it. And I acknowledge there are frame conditions that needs to be in place. I will also claim, and then I'll probably run out of the room because then you're going to come after me, I don't think we have a finance problem. There's enough finance for this. I mean, you heard it, you've said it, everyone during this week. It's no-brainers. It's low-hanging fruits. It's payback times less than 6 months. If that's the case, then it's not financing that is a problem. Then it's something else that is a problem. And I think that most businesses or most also individuals or households, it's about the uncertainty and the risk of not getting the return. It's actually not the finance. It's the risk of, do I really get those energy savings in the end? Or so if policymakers wanted to do something about it, it could be creating guarantees that actually there is a flaw that if you don't really run home your energy savings, you're not lost with the investment you actually made. So I think, and we believe there is actually financing enough in the system. I think one of the other problems that's not talked so much about is innovation. And the technologies are there to solve the problems, but I think the business models are not. So if the technologies are there and actually the business cases are there, I think we have, as industries, innovated together too little on the business models actually to make that equation come to fruition. And we're trying to do it. It's super hard, but once you try to lean into it, you actually also find what is the real barriers. So we're trying ESCOs, and those companies are, of course, one thing. But what if you could sell water flow as a service? What if instead of a company or a customer buying a pump or a pump system from us, just lease it and actually just pay a rent to this and we ensure the flow? That will give peace of mind, that will be quickly done, and we could find financing model for it. But what do you then do when the owner of that building actually sells the building and your equipment is in there? What do you then do when you have put in a pump system and it's actually our ownership, and then you're only part of a whole ecosystem because pumps, there's also pipe in there, and what if it doesn't work? Who takes the responsibility of everything? It's really good questions that starts to come to surface if you start innovating into that. And that's what I find fascinating, is actually to try to innovate, to unlock that these low-hanging fruits is not getting harvested. And if we innovate more together between industries, I think we can find some of the solutions to it, and then not ask policymakers for everything, because actually a lot of this we can solve ourselves between industries. Now, there is a few things policymakers need to do, and I just want to highlight one as an example in the public procurement. But I don't think it can be done at European or global level. It's really national level. So in the country where I live, Denmark, we're very good at water, but actually the water utilities have an innovation or an R&D cap that they cannot invest more than 2% of their businesses into innovation, but which basically means that they cannot buy it. So in this specific example, what we need to do is help that government take that specific barrier away and say to the government, you need to take the ceiling away for R&D or that R&D or CapEx cap for water utilities, then you unleash a barrier. So I just wanted to say innovation between companies to unlock the low-hanging fruits, and then let's use the policymakers very specifically in these few instances where they can unlock a barrier. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for the record, for the ones taking notes, I will say you are Ulrik Gernov. You're the Group Executive Vice President and Member of Group Management, the CEO of Grundfos. Thank you so much. And I hear you that you are also calling for bold actions, not sit still.
Yeah, and you can do it over the weekend. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. So we are solving the world problem in 3 minutes here today. So we are working into the discussion, the impact of successful energy efficiency actions on industrial competitiveness. And we have two very important and big companies. We have Google, that I think you know, and then we have SKF, bearing manufacturer with 40,000 employees around the world. But let's start with Google. How do we solve this doubling energy efficiency in 3 minutes? Vilma Casa, can you please tell us how will we do it in 3 minutes?
Sure, no pressure, but I'm happy to share some thoughts on how energy efficiency can directly fuel competitiveness. But firstly, I'd like to share that as Google, I think I'd be remiss not to mention that we're very optimistic about the potential of AI to support economic growth and competitiveness. There have been studies, both McKinsey and Goldman Sachs, that show that within a decade we can increase GDP by more than 10%. And an area where AI can play a significant role and can really master is in bringing more efficiencies, and energy efficiency is an important area. And it was already mentioned by Emma, but the IEA came out with a report earlier this year looking at AI and energy and really highlights this area. Maybe to give you just a concrete example from Google, we have our Nest smart thermostats, which use AI to make adjustments on the temperature based on people's behavior. So for example, when people are not at home, adjusting the temperature accordingly. And just in 2023, we estimated that this has helped customers cumulatively save more than 20 billion kilowatt hours, which we estimate has enabled approximately 7 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions reduction. So it's very significant impacts. But something else that we should keep in mind is that as digitalization grows, it also requires a lot of energy. So what is top of mind for us is also making sure that our operations are efficient. So at Google, we're very committed to being good grid citizens and building our infrastructure very thoughtfully and responsibly. Google's data centers are some of the most energy efficient in the world. A typical Google data center is 1.8 times more energy efficient than the enterprise average. And compared to 5 years ago, we now deliver 4 times more compute with the same amount of energy. And we do this by really being relentless in terms of eliminating energy waste throughout all the processes, but also finding and implementing energy efficiency techniques both at the software and at the hardware level. So just to give you two quick examples, on the hardware level, our latest tensor processing units, so these are the chips that we designed specifically for powering AI. So our latest generation is 30 times more energy efficient compared to the first generation from 2018. So really improving the energy efficiency there. And on the modeling side and software side, so we have identified techniques to reduce the energy required to train an AI model by 100 times and equivalent reduce emissions by more than 1,000 times. So we're also pursuing net zero emissions across our operations and value chain by 2030. And this is supported by an ambitious goal to operate on 24/7 carbon-free energy, so on the grid where we operate our data centers to be powered by carbon-free energy. So we've made a lot of progress and we continue investing a lot in this area. But maybe my last message would be that this is not something that we can do alone and to scale this. So what is really important in this forum and the people around the table is really crucial to develop the partnerships that are needed to foster, deploy this and really capture the competitiveness advantage. So bringing together policymakers, regulators, industry, grid operators, and make the most of these solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So very committed, and you are staying firm to your net zero 2030 goals, and you are working hard, I can hear, and you are very conscious on the road, and you're taking one step at a time, but maybe not solving it in 3 minutes, but at least you are solving it as we go. So thank you so much for that intervention. And I then want to turn to the world's largest bearing manufacturer with 40,000 employees and have more than 100 years of history, started in 1907. And I would like to talk to Vanja Winblad. You're the SKF Director of Sustainability and EHS and Business Quality. There you are.
Here I am, thank you.
Warm welcome. How do we solve this in 3 minutes?
Yeah, how do we solve this in 3 minutes? Always welcome to also be almost the last speaker after 2 fantastic, intense days. I will not try to outsmart anyone and repeat too much, but I want to kind of go back and refer a bit to what our dear customer ABB was just mentioning, that I mean, energy efficiency is in the movement, right? And 20% of the world's energy is used to overcome friction. And you know what? We are in the fighting friction business. So SKF is really, I mean, and we are so happy to be starting to be more vocal in the area of energy efficiency and decarbonization, because this is our core. And we are providing solutions around the rotating shaft. So we are providing bearings and seals and lubrication to basically make all of these solutions that we have been touching these days, high-speed compressors that are part of the heat pumps, that are part of the whole energy transition, chillers, what we learned that air conditions is the biggest consumer, right, of electricity. So when you make those rotations and that high-speed rotation in there more, or less, give it less friction, or let's say provide less friction, we have a huge impact. So we are sitting in all of the components that we have been talking about here. But I mean, obviously, we are not. We are part of the industrial ecosystem, right? So it's music to our ears when we hear the discussion coming back a bit much more to the total cost of ownership, because we have always been seen as like a premium brand. So we are the knowledge, let's say, leader, the innovation leader, and we put a lot of our funds into our research and development. We have the world's most renowned experts on tribology and lubrication expertise. So, but all of that obviously have to pay off, and I mean, to be sustainable and to be clean has to give a result on the bottom line. So we really bet on and hope that the whole energy transition and let's say the rise of the clean technologies will continue, because we are very much part of powering that. But I will actually also like to bring up some good examples from our own operations, because we're not too bad. Listening to a lot of the challenges that are brought up here, we are very much also a company that very early on put sustainability high up on the agenda, and it's very much in our DNA. We put our first climate targets already 25 years ago, so far, far before the Paris Agreement and a lot of the latest SBTi certified targets, etc., which we obviously are, and we are EcoVadis Platinum, and we are, we're doing our homework. But very much these high ratings are thanks to a long and consistent commitment to decarbonization, energy efficiency, and work in our own operations. So we have a hard KPI on 5% energy efficiency improvement year over year in our own operations. Not always met the full, but we are hovering around 3.5% improvement, which is not too bad when you listen to the bigger commitments of going from 2 to 4. We actually are at 3.5 in our own operations. And this is thanks to, consistent work with energy, let's say, efficiency mindset. We call it energy obsession in our operations. And we put also our money where our mouth is. So we have, there are some things you can solve, obviously, with consistent, continuous improvement measures and awareness and metering, monitoring, etc. But you also come to a point where we need to replace the furnace. You need to upgrade your quite heavy equipment or the whole building insulation discussions. And here we have put aside 300 million euros to really earmarked money to fund these sometimes investments in our own operations that would not fulfill the financial payback terms that are normally put. So here so this is like a leading KPI. So we follow up our factory managers that you should consume your frame. Otherwise, we will not reach our own decarbonization targets. So this is, I think, some good examples of what you can really do in your own operations. We have decoupled our own emissions and from our revenue growth since long. Our revenue growth since we started measuring has basically doubled, while our own emissions has reduced with 60%. So it is possible, the technology is there, but I want to bring up one challenge to kind of sum up here. So when our CapEx purchasers, so when we have factories all over the world, we have factories and we are investing heavily in China, in India, in the US, and obviously in Europe as well, where we have been since long. But when we invest in new production lines and we are to buy grinding machines, honing machines, industrial washing machines, there's no clarity on the energy efficiency of these equipment. So we struggle sometimes a bit to really, when we buy the equipment to our factories, to validate what is the best equipment and from an energy long-term total cost of ownership, and so we have kind of had to make up our own standards, and which is probably not the most efficient way. So this would be, we have talked a lot about building standards and labeling of buildings in terms of energy efficiency, but that goes actually also quite, we have the same challenge for industrial equipment. So that would be somehow a call for action from our side to be able to make informed decisions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we will have ISO here in a minute, so we will push that question forward on to them. But in the meanwhile, before we turn to ISO, it's a cliffhanger, I hope you recognize that, is that we are now going to get some really good examples from two countries that really have been penciling in the energy efficiency actions, and that is Ireland and Canada. And I would like to start with Ireland. You have been very early on your energy efficiency actions. And Daminat Gleeson, you are the Industry Decarbonization Program Manager in the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Tell us, how do we solve the world's problem in 3 minutes? I think you need to put you on your speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yeah, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, it's a public agency. It sits under the Governmental Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment. And, we work with householders, with energy communities, with the public sector, schools, hospitals, with government, of course, and with business in order to try and create a cleaner energy future. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of the initiatives that we have implemented to support industry to embed energy efficiency in kind of, I suppose, the everyday business of business. So I'm going to tell you, effectively, it's a kind of tale of two management standards. The first is an energy efficient design standard that was released back in 2014. And this was developed with SEAI and the National Standards Authority. And in a nutshell, what it involves is challenging assumptions about energy use, about energy requirement for projects, for initiatives. So I suppose to illustrate or to give an example, there was a large manufacturing site down in the south of Ireland who are looking at replacing a 4-megawatt fossil boiler. And, you know, prior to, I suppose, applying the energy efficient design lens, they were thinking that they would have to replace it with a 4-megawatt heat pump. Post applying that process, they were able to achieve what they needed to do in terms of energy with a 1-megawatt heat pump. And, you know, this is not an outlier. This is effectively what taking this type of lens to energy usage can really provide. It involves really delving into what the heat sources and sinks are within companies and within manufacturing sites, really understanding how waste heat can be captured, how heating and cooling can be connected in order to make enormous savings. So what we did then with the energy management standard was to make it a requirement to access capital grant funding for large industry. So that effectively has really embedded this energy efficiency lens, you know, at the design stage, which, you know, we've heard references to that earlier, how, you know, the design stage is really when we need to start thinking about energy management, energy performance, and there's enormous kind of savings to be made there. So the second initiative I'm going to talk about, and Emma was kind enough to introduce it earlier, is the Large Industry Energy Network. And this network has been in existence for almost 30 years, actually. It has been around for longer than our agency itself, but has gone through various iterations. But effectively what it is a network of companies, of large energy users in Ireland. So in order to be eligible to be a member of the network, you need to be spending over $1 million a year on energy. You need to be either certified to or working towards ISO 50001. So this is the other standard I want to talk about. And I mean, as I'm sure the majority here know, what that energy management standard is centered on is continuous improvement in energy performance. So it's not enough to make one big project. You have to be looking at your energy usage, you know, day on day, year on year. So effectively, in order to achieve that, you need to be looking at it at energy efficiency. You need to be looking at the machinery that you're using. You need to have, you know, continual monitoring and measurement. And you need to be thinking about what kind of improvements can be made as a result of kind of going through that process. So very quickly, the kind of supports that are available through the network are, in the first leg of the supports is really that we provide expertise, consultancy support. We send out experts in energy efficiency and decarbonisation out on site to the companies to give them unbiased advice. And, you know, we find that that's incredibly welcome, just to be able to be advised by someone who's actually not actively trying to sell them anything, so they can kind of trust the advice that's there. Another area of support that we provide, we run a calendar of events, so we have training on, you know, the implementation of those energy management standards, looking at energy performance indicators, looking at measurement and verification. So it's not just that we require the certification, it's that we actively support companies in seeking it, in continuing to implement it successfully. We also have special working groups where companies can work together, you know, with a facilitator on projects. It's a sort of deeper dive into some of the really topical areas. This past year we ran an electrification of heat special working group. We've got HVAC optimization. We've got energy data management. management. So we see an awful lot of kind of shared learnings across companies. We run a series of site visits where companies who are thinking about implementing, maybe heat pumps or solar energy can go out and see it on site. Another company can hear about, how disruptive it was to production, or the kind of, I suppose, weigh up the pros and cons of those types of interventions. One final initiative I wanted to mention, which is sort of a subset of the Large Industry Energy Network, is something that we've just launched this year called Industrial Decarbonisation Partnership. We're working even more closely with a subset of the really ambitious large energy users, and we're delving into their decarbonisation plans. We collect data voluntarily from all the companies within the network, but we really do again a much deeper investigation of the data and decarbonisation planning of these big, ambitious companies. And what we've also done is to set up a dialogue between senior leadership in these companies and senior policymakers within the departments of climate and enterprise. So that, I suppose, the companies that are working the hardest to decarbonise but are encountering challenges or obstacles in the system, whether that's the grid or the price of electricity or so on, that we can really kind of highlight those issues and bring them to the fore. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So things are coming back now. It feels good, actually. But you emphasize in energy management standards and energy management systems, and also to bring the value chain together. You talk about your large energy industry network. That sounds very, very interesting. And also your initiative here to bring senior policymakers and senior leaders together, because it also sounds like these questions are local or country-wise. So bring them together and have them sit around the same table, so you really can form what we really want to focus on, the total cost of ownership and energy efficiency throughout the life for the industry and the products. Super good. And let's turn to Canada then. We have Ainsley Emerson here. You're the Senior Director of Office of Energy Efficiency at the Natural Resources Canada. And you have also been working very thorough with how to implement effective policies. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'll start by providing some context about why, in working towards our COP28 commitment to double energy efficiency, why we're focusing on the industrial sector. In 2022, Canadian companies spent $60 billion on energy costs, and in some cases this represented up to 45% of their production inputs. This number is all the more striking when you consider that Canada has some of the lowest energy costs in all of the OECD countries, so there's clearly room for gains there. We have a four-pillar approach to supporting the industrial sector in driving performance gains. The first of which is financial incentives. And we've designed these to make it easy. There's one program, not difficult to navigate, you get there, and it's flexible funding arrangements, because we know there's not just one solution. Each facility, each manufacturer is going to need to approach their energy efficiency challenge in a different way. And so, for example, we have funding that can support capital investments. This is the low-hanging fruit, where you can replace a boiler, you can improve the refrigeration, you can install metering. This program also funds energy audits so that companies can develop the baseline data they need to integrate energy efficiency considerations into their future business and investment planning. We are also using this program to support energy management training. It helps the individual facilities make improvements on site, and in the long term, we're growing the workforce that we need for energy efficiency improvements. This program also has a dual track. One is for individual facilities to come forward where they're seeking improvements on site, and the other side is for partners such as utilities and provinces who can reach a broader audience and they can scale up. And so there may be a type of improvement they can help implement across a range of facilities. So through this program, we're reaching many facilities of different sizes and in different sectors. The second pillar is that we convene so that information sharing and capacity building is accelerated. And just this year, we've reached 50 years of operations for the Canadian Industry Partnership for Energy Conservation. This platform is very low cost for the government, and it brings together partners. We have hundreds of companies and sectors that are represented, and they're able to access training, workshops, peer-to-peer exchanges, task forces, and really share their innovation and their best practices within the sector. The third pillar is in standards and regulations, and this speaks to the policy certainty that we've heard about over and over the last 2 days. We work closely with industry, with utilities, and with provinces to develop Canada's regulatory framework for industrial equipment. This includes products such as motors, and we know how important that is. We are working hard to promote early awareness, and to do that, we publish a forward regulatory plan, and we issue our amendments on a regular schedule. This has numerous advantages for industry, the most significant being the certainty it creates. And knowing what the forward plans are allows them to know the future markets, and this can bring forward investments in R&D, and it increases the availability of higher performing technologies and helps drive long-term efficiency gains. It also helps keep costs down for the eventual consumers. The final pillar is benchmarking and certification, and I know we're hearing from ISO soon. We have a guide that helps companies and facilities that are interested in working towards that journey for ISO 50001 certification. And for companies, they can also be eligible for funding support as they are working towards that. The Canadian market is not very big, and so for a lot of companies that are looking to export, the ISO 50001 is really important to them to be able to reach those global markets. So I would just like to close by also mentioning that Canada is very pleased to have joined the IEA's recently launched implementation drive for industry. As you've heard domestically, we work often with partners in setting efficiency policies, and we think that this new international collaboration is going to be a very effective tool for broadening and maximizing our impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So it sounds like you're not on 4% energy efficiency implementation, but maybe 8% or something, really accelerating. I don't know where you're at, and I'm not going to ask you about the question, but the figure. But it sounds very nice. I like it. One program, systematic and long-term. You have this partnership for 50 years, very impressive. And also, of course, standards and regulation that has been lifted here over and over and over again, and also lifted by SKF, and also to understand these regulatory plans going forward, so we can really understand this stability in policy. So thank you so much for that insightful intervention. And I think then it's we have a very important speaker. We're talking about standards all over. We're moving into the topic unlocking finance for industrial energy efficiency. And we do believe that standards is one of the way to unlock finance. And I'm so happy that we have Silvio Dulinski. You are the Deputy Secretary General for ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. Warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I promise I didn't pay then for those publicity spots. So, tough to be speaking about international standards at 5 o'clock on a Friday at the end of the conference. I hope everyone's awake and you won't fall asleep in 3 minutes. Look, I think many of you have been this TAINS conference many times more than I have. This is my 4th time in these meetings. So since we started working very closely with IEA, it's a great partner for us in developing standards, mainly aiming at systemic change. I think that is what we believe that standards can support on that. And we think about 3 main vectors. It's like 3 areas where we believe that international standards can support. The first one is about accelerating global scalability. And how does that in practice? It's a beautiful word, right? But what does it mean in practice? ISO has 173 members, national standards bodies, Canada, all the countries here represented. Once you have international standards, all these members nationally can adopt the international standard as the national one. And then the regulators can make reference to those national standards as the framework for presumption of conformity, to reference in the regulations, to make sure that we have consistency across value chains. I think that is one way that we support, and here comes the second one. It's about supporting policy makers, policy implementation, accelerating, providing agility. It's very unlikely that regulations will be able to keep up with the speed of development of technology, innovation, everything that we can. So therefore, relying on the standards to provide that complementarity, that the national standards, which are developed by the industries, like all the companies here spoke before, you are all involved with the technical committees in your respective countries developing these standards. So you have that direct input into the standards so that they can keep up with the regulations. I think the second one is about complementing, supporting regulatory implementation. And then very important to this is about the complementarity in integrating with the environmental ambitions, because some of you have mentioned, right? One thing is the specific about the energy efficiency, the part that is more technical. But how does that integrate with the whole part that it's purely about environmental performance? And when you talk about the 50,001, thank you very much, about the energy efficiency system, we also, that speaks the same language as the 14,001 on environmental sustainability. And the other one that I don't remember the number, about the water management systems, and so on and so forth, right? It's like having that systemic approach is fundamental if you want to achieve also this environmental performance, especially when it comes to the perspective of regulators that will have that systemic, right? They think about the whole society. And then the other aspect is, still on this systemic, is the integration across value chains. It's like when I think SKF being a supplier or ABB, right? It's like, and you also have other suppliers, right? And so on and so forth, right? All these standards, they have to speak with each other along the value chains, right? That is very important. And that's what they also bring, that consistency there. And that relates to the third pillar, which is about trust. You are talking about certification, about that. It's like some colleagues here from the Association of Energy Engineers. It's like they work very much as one body, one reputable organization, think about certification. And there are many others. But the importance of it is that I think all your companies, we all worry also about the greenwashing, about the claims, about that organizations, that then how do we build the trust in society? It's like when we think about also the investment, unlocking financing, it's like it's very important that investors can rely on the information, can rely on what is being claimed, on the performance. When we talk about performance-based financing and all that, it's like you need to have reliable information there. You need, and it's not about having one data, one number, but you need the whole process, the whole system to be reliable, right? And that is where this complementarity, the systemic change, we believe that international standards can make a small contribution there. Just calling, please engage with standards development. It's like several of you are involved in it, but very often companies involved in regulation involved in one specific sector. But it's very important to take a broader approach. It's like to get involved with standards development that impact your whole value chain and some others that are cross-cutting. Because the value very often when we think about the energy, environmental, AI, is that it's very good that ISO has a standard on energy efficiency, but the real value is that those concepts are integrated now in mobility, in energy equipment, in metals, in I don't know, food and agriculture. It's like to triple down those concepts across the whole value chain is very important. And for that, our standards are developed by you, right? So regulators, companies, and the civil society. I'd love to write then in Geneva, but in my office, but we're not there yet. So if you don't engage with the international standards development, they will always fall short to your expectations. So this is an invitation and a call to action. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So that's a great responsibility. We understand standards are created bottom up. So get involved in your national standardization organization. I'm CIS, I'm Swedish. And then channel it up towards ISO so we have standards that we want, need, and can implement. Thank you. very good. And from that also then, so we have standards, we have industry that wants to go, we have a lot of policymakers that want a lot, and let's turn into financing a more hard on finance. And we have Dr. Charles Ehrhardt here from the Green Climate Fund. You're the Chief Strategy and Impact Officer. And now in 3 minutes, how can we solve this? I mean, it's Friday, we want to go home. Please just solve it in 3 minutes.
Yeah, across the developing world. Look, I was really appreciative of the succinct description that IEA set out at the beginning about what are some of the key enablers of accelerating industrial energy efficiency. And amongst those that were listed were the need for an integrated policy framework, and I appreciated your point as well that integrated framework needs to not just be within countries, but also between countries, given the complex nature of our value chains. And the second point was around having targeted fiscal solutions. Now, the lack of these key enablers is particularly acute in many developing countries. And the GCF is working very hard to try to break down those barriers, to turn it around into a strong enabling environment through that integrated policy framework and targeted fiscal solutions. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the GCF, with the Green Climate Fund, we are a financial mechanism of the United Nations framework on climate change. In fact, we are the world's largest dedicated climate fund. So by aligning our investments with national climate strategies and providing those tailored financial instruments to local needs, we're helping unlock private sector engagement and lower transaction costs in this transition to greater industrial energy efficiency. And we're doing this through a combination of 3 different things. First, something that has been touched upon several times, and I well appreciated the point that the money is out there, it just needs to be de-risked. And instruments such as guarantees to help unlock, at least early on. So the first of our instruments is around, or efforts, is de-risking investments using concessional loans, guarantees, and junior equity positions. Second, it's around scaling solutions through programmatic and platform approaches. We're doing some really interesting work recently announced with in the Caribbean region around regional platforms, which will be driven, the agenda, the priorities will be driven by the countries there. And then the third is that strengthening enabling environment. So we have a very large readiness program, which rather than just speaking about the need for those enabling environments, integrated policy frameworks, we put resources on the table for countries to develop those. Now, let me just speak with some examples about what this looks like in the real world. And I'll start off with, in a little bit of a world tour, with an example from Mongolia. Now, in Mongolia, GCF has partnered with a local bank to offer concessional credit lines to small and medium enterprises that are investing in energy-efficient technologies. So what's the problem there if it pays itself back, right? And the answer is that it's high interest rates, short loan tenors, and low awareness of the benefits from making these investments. So GCF came in and we addressed this with our partners with a blended solution that included concessional finance to reduce borrowing costs, technical assistance to banking staff so that they actually better understood what they were selling to small and medium enterprises, and in this case, even a digital tool to track CO2 impact of each loan. So that's one example. Another example is from Bangladesh, where the GCF has invested some $256 million in the textile and ready-made garment sector, which is, of course, the country's largest industrial emitter. There, we're enabling energy-efficient upgrades for factories that have been plagued by very old and inefficient machinery. And this project provides long-term concessional loans to ease upfront costs and robust technical assistance package to link energy service providers with factory owners, improve market understanding, and catalyze uptake. And I'll come back to that point with my third example, which in this case is from Indonesia, where we're supporting market transformation through a USD 100 million guarantee facility implemented with the Korean Development Bank. Now, this de-risks credit provided by local banks to small and medium enterprises and to ESCOs operating in the industrial sector. Now, there was a consistent thread throughout all of these that it's not just about, well, there is that enabling integrated policy framework and as well financial instruments. But what's really been key between all of these is the blockage that is created by businesses that do not know on both sides of the equation, supply and demand, the opportunity that's here. So in that example from in Indonesia, it's not that there are not local banks. It's that the local banks have been afraid to give those kinds of loans to businesses because they're simply unfamiliar with the kinds of products that they can provide. So we've gone in that case, and by showing the market what can be done, we're breaking down that barrier. The lack of understanding on the demand side is also key. I think that a big part of the magic is working to break down that knowledge barrier on both the demand and supply side to really open up capital flows. And with those comments, I will stop.
Thank you so much. I think that's music to my ears when Chief Strategy and Impact Officer from a big fund says there's not a problem with money. So I think we all should bring that back to us. And let's not, next time we meet, start to talk about there's no money. We are talking about the unlocking, but let's just bring all the good examples when we are unlocking the money. And you lift here that the risking is very important, and how can we do that together through policies, but also collaboration. And also you say focus on scalability. Platforms that are scalable is a way to implement at speed. So folks, good news this Friday, a lot of money, so go home and implement. Now we have the two last speakers before we're going to have just a sum up and closing remarks by Brian Motherway, who's in here now. And now, no pressure, but we are going to hear from Rexel Group, and we're going to hear from Association of Energy Engineers. On the very important topic, the next step for accelerating energy efficiency to boost industrial competitiveness. So no pressure, but now you really need to solve it in 3 minutes. Clotilde Bremer, you are from Rexel Group, and you are the you're working with sustainability. You are the sustainability strategic partnership leader, right? Right. Thank you. And Rexel Group, you work with the distribution of electrical, heating and lighting and plumbing equipment. So you're very important in this world. So please tell us, how will we solve this going forward?
So thank you. So yes, Rexel also is a global B2B distributor of electrical products and solutions. We operate in 20 countries, and we serve residential, commercial, and industrial markets. Our customer base is diverse. We serve also large accounts. We serve industrial clients, as well as installers and small to medium-sized also enterprise. So this is also very important because, I mean, those installers and ACMEs also represent really a big part of our customer pie. And as you can imagine, depending on the profile, these customers have different level of maturity and interest when it comes to energy efficiency. And this is all the complexity that we have here. And we are fully committed, obviously, to address the challenge of the energy transition, of the energy efficiency. The energy efficiency is almost systematically included in all building renovation call for tenders that we receive. And we think that as a distributor in the electric field, we are a key enabler in the value chain to accelerate the energy transition in buildings. So obviously, our role is to select products with low impact, high efficient, and to make them available to our customers. And we have in-house experts in-house. However, we are facing also some key challenges. The first one is about the affordability. The energy-efficient products and solutions are often more expensive, and the price is key for the adoption. We need also to ensure that we provide some efficient solutions which are affordable, accessible, and cost-effective. And right now, it's not that easy to demonstrate this when it comes also to have customers' discussions. Second challenge is about installers' training. Connecting cable is not the same job as installing connected electrical products with software. It's completely different. And we need to support SMEs with the necessary skills and knowledge to implement energy-efficient technologies. This is also our second challenge. Third challenge that we see, it's about measuring the impact. From the diagnosis to the measurement of the energy efficiency results. And we need also the data to track this. Data is crucial, specifically in sustainability. So what do? So we act on two main levels. Upstream with our partners, and I see also ABB over there, we partner closely with our suppliers to identify the most innovative, energy-efficient technologies, circularity, etc. So we select closely with them also which products are the best ones. We also work with our suppliers on product data standards. And that's why actually anytime we do have also specific regulations on which we can count on, I mean, it simplifies a lot the process, the understanding, and our message to our customers. And it's very important that any time also we promote a specific product, we provide it also with full transparency to our customers because we want to avoid any greenwashing. What do we do downstream with our customers? Obviously, we sell them some products, but we offer them a wide range of value-added services, such as certified trainings on renewable energy and smart technologies. We are doing this. Some of them also are co-built with our suppliers. We provide them some specific tools, environmental impact assessments for the products or even for their purchase basket. We provide them also some administrative support, very pragmatic, to access public funding for energy retrofits. We provide them also some support with regulatory compliance for building renovations. We provide them also some building energy audits to identify improvement opportunities and priorities, etc., etc. So a lot of things, a constellation of value-added service. It's a journey, and we need also to improve again and again. And this journey is also necessary to be done jointly with all the actors, with the customers, but also with the suppliers and with the regulations. And it's really, that's why actually we are very proud also to be part of the energy efficiency movement, alongside also with all the committed companies. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for really lifting this. You are really a spider in the net, taking all the products being sold through your distribution network, and also working both with your upstream, your suppliers, and also downstream with the installators, and also how you can help with policies around energy retrofits and regulation on building renovation and so forth. So very important role you have. We need more companies like that. So this is an enabler, and it's providing scalability. If we look on scale, scale, especially for SMEs. And you lifted one important point, and that was installation training. And training is, of course, a super important point. So I'm therefore very, very happy to have the last speaker here before we wrap up. Bill Kent, you are the Executive Director of Association of Energy Engineers, and I know training is very warm to your heart.
Training is very important to us, Anna. Thank you very much. So policy, we need consistent, stable policy. Financing, I guess there's money. We have money. There's not a financing problem. I'm hearing that. So yesterday we started with awareness to ambition to action. When I think about action, I think about product, services, and people. So if we want to accelerate the energy efficiency for industrial competitiveness, we need a larger, skilled, and competent workforce for energy efficiency. That's what I think we need. Just a little data, approximately 10 million workers in the energy industry, energy efficiency industry, another 5 million by 2030. So energy efficiency is the largest component of the workforce in the energy industry. According to our survey of the industry globally, more than 75% of the respondents say there's currently a shortage of workers, and more than 40% plan to retire within the next 10 years. So we have a shortage. With the growth in the industry, we will continue to have a shortage. So we have good products. We have proven solutions. We need to provide additional training. Just a quick example, we did a training class recently with a global tire manufacturer in Malaysia. They have multiple plants around the world. They brought their energy engineers in, and in 1 week of training, they identified right immediately $160,000 in cost savings. Now, they did the same thing last year and the year before and identified the same savings in different regions. So there are cost savings if we train and empower the workforce. So what can we do? I think the first thing is we have to, I've heard energy efficiency is not sexy. Well, then I guess energy efficiency careers are not sexy. So we have to, these are good careers that really make a difference, make an impact in the world. When you're saving energy, doing energy efficiency, tremendous climate impact. We need to recruit. We need to start with the younger generation promoting careers in energy efficiency. We need to have government workforce programs, focus on energy efficiency, maybe less on solar installation, focus on energy efficiency. We all need to mentor the next generation of workers as the workforce is retiring. We need to bring in underserved communities into the energy efficiency workforce. Maybe we need to take and reskill and upskill climate and sustainability engineers, okay, or our career professionals. So these are good careers that make a difference. So I think we need more workers. I know we need more workers. It's been proven, and we need to train, recruit more, and that will allow us to accelerate our industrial competitiveness.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very hard statement, and we all need to raise the awareness that there is a super career in energy efficiency. Bring that home to your kids, your neighbors, your friends, your not friends, everyone at home. And I just would like to summarize really quick. I think we have heard from the private sector that it is important to know. We need hard KPIs and data, super important, so we know what we're doing, so we can measure. Because it's not talk about what are we doing, it's talking about showing the results. We need to work over the value chain. Collaborations have been lifted by almost all speakers. We also have emphasized on total cost of ownership. We really need to go from investment upfront to total cost of ownership. And also in this dialogue with the value chain, standards and systematic approach is lifted by many of you. When it comes to policies, I would say long-term and stable policies has been very, very echoed around the tables among governments and policy officers and the public sector. Also learn from each other. Very good examples here of Middle East, learning from India, and how we can do that more. And also the importance of when we are forming both regulations and incentives to have very thorough dialogues with the one that's going to affect, so to say, the industry, the private sector, the importance of dialogues between public and private sector when we put incentives and regulations. So thank you for that. And by that, I would like to turn for a closing remark. Brian, congratulations. What a number of days we have had here, 2.5 days, I would say. Thank you so much for putting it up, this very important conference. And please, I'm eager to hear your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you, everybody. I don't want to hold you up, except I did want to come in and say thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't here for the whole session, but Anne and Mike and all the colleagues, this particular session is a very important, now it seems to become a significant fixture in the annual calendar at the global conference. We had a very good session, also led by Anne and colleagues last year in Nairobi, and we did something at Versailles, and I think it's becoming well established, and I can see even just from the time I was here, it's clearly still a very productive and fruitful discussion. So thank you for that. And you would have seen the new data that Jerome and colleagues put out in terms of looking at the focus on industry sector. We wanted to focus on industry this year because we can see that progress is slower in terms of efficiency gains, and that's having obviously many impacts in the sector itself, but also on overall progress towards energy efficiency. But the new data also shows that there is a lot of opportunity because there is so much variation in performance. And I was really quite struck by some of the numbers that Jerome showed me about how people making identical things use massively different amounts of energy to do it. And that's obviously waste and that has a downside, but it's also opportunity. The point is there are many firms waiting to be lifted up in terms of their efficiency gains, which is good news for policymakers who want to protect jobs and enhance competitiveness. Good news for colleagues here who are selling all the excellent goods and services, and indeed those that are using the energy and maybe now are more aware of the opportunity to save. So we'll continue to work with you all to focus on this sector as well as our wider work, and we'll continue to have these conversations at the global conference. So thanks all of you finally for participating here in Brussels in our 10th annual conference, and we look forward to seeing you at the 11th. Thank you, Anna.